Uh, some- This is the duly noticed August 15th meeting of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers. We are in the training room here on Nantucket at Fort Fairgrounds Road and going out hybrid and virtual on Zoom. So we call the meeting to order and remind everybody who's on Zoom that you are being video recorded and audio recorded, and so anything you say may be held against you in the future. First, let me see if we have a quorum for today's meeting. So I'll go down the list. Peter Halley is here. Peter Kahn is here. Kathy Bird is here. Let's see, Bill Gardner is
here. He's here.
He's there. There's Bill. Steve Proman is here. Pam Swan, she's here virtually.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay. Lou Bassano.
Lou said he couldn't make it today.
Okay. Gene Briskman here. Oh, there you are. Hi, Jen. John Delano's on the video, I believe.
Yes, he's right there.
And Mike Hurley. Is Mike Hurley here?
No.
No.
And Bob.
Donald Latino is here. Patty Nister is not here yet. Eric Crowther just walked in. Scott Ulm is here. And Bob Vidani is, I think, not planning to make it. Oh, there he is.
There.
He's on the TV. Okay, good. So we have a farm. That's great. So let's proceed with the agenda. I have a motion to approve today's agenda. Yes, and second.
Second.
And anybody, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay.
Here on the minutes, just John Delano was listed as present and absent, so I fixed that. He was not present.
Okay. Well, with that editorial change, is there a motion to approve the minutes? So, in a second, yeah. Second. Okay, motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good, so let's get on with our program. We are fortunate today, as you can see on the screen, to have Mike Burns, who is the transportation program manager for the island. Parking and streets and all that has been a very matter of great interest, I think, to everybody. And we just joined the Islanders as some summer residents, being concerned and wanting to know, Mike, where we're going next and what changes we can expect to see over the years, if you're able to predict that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's all right, can I share my screen with you all? And I hope I'm sharing the right one. It should say Transportation Program Manager update. And Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I would like to run through, just overwhelm you with just a variety of different data projects we're working on, the status of some current projects and some other projects that are ongoing, and then kind of open it up to questions. Is that all right to kind of?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think we need to be brought up to date and sort of see the whole picture rather than just the picture we all see every day when we're on whatever sort of run we're on.
Sounds good, Mr. Chair. So what I'll do is kind of start from maybe a data standpoint and just let you all know that you can go online and Google Nantucket traffic data, and we have about 10 or so permanent traffic counting stations throughout the island, concentrated mostly in the town area and the mid-island, in the streets around town. We've had these out for a couple of years, collecting traffic volumes, traffic speeds, and the classification of vehicles. And on the left there, you can see that there's the panel there that you're going to see at the landing page. You could click a variety of the different locations where we have the stations installed: Cliff Road, Fairgrounds Road, Hummock Pond Road, etc. There's one out leading into Sconset as part of the speed feedback sign. We do collect data from that speed feedback sign. And like I said, you can go online and look at this data. And we have a data dashboard for each of the locations that show relative speed of vehicles, the volume of them. And you can see on the graph on the bottom just how that changes over time and how there is like a seasonal fluctuation. And there's a slider on the dashboard that you can use that to kind of toggle through time to see, what days what the volume and the speeds were on particular days. So that's good information that we have as like a base that we'll use. And I'm going to get to the point of how we use this data a little later in the slides. A lot of you might recall a number of years ago or a number of decades ago that there was a carrying capacity study done on island. And I'm showing you this just to let you know that I'm sure you've heard that traffic seems really bad this year. I think we say the same thing every year, but in 1999, again, this is like over 25 years ago, there was an evaluation done of what the carrying capacity of vehicles might be on the islands. Now, I personally don't subscribe to the idea of the number of vehicles being the problem, it's the use of the vehicles, but this is a helpful guide to see how the number of vehicles in island has changed over time. And you can see at the top, this yellow bar, I call that the ceiling, I guess, if you subscribe to the idea that there is a carrying capacity of vehicles that would gridlock the island. That was set at 29,700 vehicles. Well, the last couple of years in 2025, and we're estimating in 2026, we don't quite have the July ferry numbers just yet, but they align extremely closely to last year. So I'm just using last year's number as a guide and caveat that with, I think it's going to be 100 or 200 vehicles more. But we're estimating this season is about 30,650 vehicles on island in July. And you can see that that's about 1,000 more than what the ceiling shows as a threshold. So that's an indicator of like, if things feel stressed and gridlocked, well, 25 plus years ago, it was estimated that, if we hit that point, then you would start feeling like things were gridlocked and unacceptable. So that's a good indicator of just traffic congestion that I've tracked over time. Moving along to the NRTA data, you can see that this trend line is increasing and trending in the right direction if you think that transit ridership is a good thing. What happened in 2023 was we went fare free. The bus became free. So in 2024, you can see how ridership nearly doubled. It increased again in 2025, and this year it's just an all-time high. And this is ridership through the month of June. I don't have the July, and obviously I don't have August yet for the whole summer of 2026. But this is going to be a banner year for NRTA ridership. I hear positive feedback from riders, from visitors who take the bus who cannot believe that the bus is free. They wish it was free and where they lived. This is really a game changer, and I'm sure you've heard from some of our community leaders that if we're going to solve the transportation problem on Nantucket, we need to find some kind of, I'm going to call it a gondola, right? I'm sure you've all heard, where's our gondola from Matt Fee? Well, fare-free transit was the gondola. You can see the ridership doubled. So that's an extremely good thing that the community did. And I honestly would predict that I don't think you'll ever have to pay to get on the bus ever again on Nantucket. It's just too successful, and the data represents that. So what do we do with all of this data, and how can we use this to predict future traffic? Well, right now, we're in the middle of developing a travel demand forecasting model. We've collected a lot of the data in the field that I've showed you. We work with a very good traffic modeling consultant who actually did the traffic modeling work for the Cape Cod bridges and all the ancillary roadways that's going to go into the new bridges as part of that project. That whole team is fantastic. We work with them to calibrate a traffic model. Calibration means that we just take the default settings in the model and then change them to the Nantucket settings. We have a very high construction employment rate. We have a very high service industry here. The vehicle ownership is very high on Nantucket. There's all these different demographic factors, and it's not a few, I'll tell you that. It's very dynamic. So they calibrated that model to reflect the conditions that we are experiencing in the field. And thank goodness we have these array of permanent counting stations around the island. We can sync them and just verify that what the model is producing is what we're seeing out in the field. And this is what we're seeing out in the field. This map here that I'm showing you, it's a heat map. The lines in green, the roadways in green, have what we call a travel time index of less than 1, meaning that the traffic flow conditions are free flowing. It's as you would expect the conditions to be along the roadway. Once you get to a travel time index value greater than 1, then you start experiencing greater time. A value of 1.5 on a travel index means that it takes 50% longer to get to your to go that section of roadway. Once you get beyond an index of 2, that's severe bottleneck, a doubling of travel time, and that's just at a level of 2. We have some conditions, and this is a map of conditions in a typical shoulder season, like a April and May, or an October, November time of year. It's not the peak, but it's typical. So typically on the islands, along Surfside Road, between Bartlett Road and My Comet, around the roundabout and the rotary, and obviously along Old South Road, you can see the conditions are about 50% higher. And in some of these intersections, they can be 50% higher, or take 4 times as long as it would under a free flow condition. And I don't think that's hyperbole at all. I think you can say that it took me a little bit longer to get through there than it should have when you travel through some of these sections of the island. You might ask, what are those conditions in the peak summer season? We calibrated the model to show a July, August, not the worst day in the summer, not the Saturday of pops at 2 p.m., but a typical July, August condition. And you can see that the purple lines are a severe congested condition where it takes more than twice as long. It can take maybe 19 times as long. I think it might feel that way sometimes to you all stuck in traffic. And those areas are, again, around the Milestone Rotary, all along Old South Road, queuing up to the Noshup neighborhood, along Surfside Road, and there's a section of Hummock Pond Road in that vicinity that gets pretty congested. So this is all passing the test as far as our evaluations. And this is representing current year conditions, current peak year conditions based on the volumes that we're collecting right now. I don't think, and you might agree that this feels correct. These are the hot spots. These are the worst areas of the island. So we try to project that out to 2050. What are these conditions in 2050? Well, we have to use our growth, to estimate growth. We looked at our build out analysis last year. We worked with a consultant to estimate the number of dwelling units that are possible on the islands based on zoning conditions. This isn't just do whatever you want. This is based on our rules and regulations of what can be built. And there was an evaluation of every parcel on the island. It's possible to reach 17,000 additional new dwelling units based on our trends in the building permits that are processed each year. There's like a couple of hundred new dwellings that happen a year. And on that pace, we're estimating by 2050 that we're not going to get to the 17,000 in full max build out, but we estimate that we can add a little over 5,000 new dwelling units. So we're using that as a base. And, again, using our population trends that we get from the UMass Donahue Institute for employment and your own population, we're trying to use this as a base to do a projection in that traffic model and those color-coded traffic conditions, and see what those conditions will be in 2050. They will be worse, right? But what can we do? How can we make it better? There's a number of different strategies that we're testing right now, and we hope to present that later in September. It's just not ready just yet. We're trying to estimate where population will grow, and then what the employment mix might be. So we're doing testing some strategies. One is our land use strategy. We'd like to reduce the trips, the use of the vehicle. Again, not the number of vehicles. We're trying to influence the use of the vehicle by expanding commercial and service uses near high population growth areas. This says TAZ. That's just a boundary that we've kind of established, a geographic boundary. So we're trying to keep trips within certain neighborhoods, and the idea being that wherever you live on the islands, you might have something within proximity to you. If you need to get milk or something else, you don't have to drive through the rotary in order to get it. You don't have to drive to the Mid-Island Stop and Shop to get what you need. You might have some things within proximity. What those things are, we'll figure out through area planning processes. But this is the principle that we're trying to exercise, and to also focus future growth near existing commercial uses. Where there's commercial uses in the Mid-Island, we should probably add more residential dwelling units there if we're going to grow that way. And if we're going to grow in some areas outside of the commercial areas where we know that the high growth areas, we should probably have more commercial uses and services. The idea being that if an application is submitted to the planning board, that there's not necessarily a knee-jerk negative reaction, that there's actually some positive benefit if there's like some kind of commercial use or a service offered as part of an application, because it's healthy for the neighborhood. It's actually going to keep you from driving farther distances. Other influences are having new bike paths and sidewalk connections in these high growth areas, improving transit access in these high growth areas. These are things that we already do and very successful at, and we're proud of that. But what we haven't done is implement a parking management system just yet that can also influence mode choice and decisions on trips, expanding our parking ride systems and improving the rate of shared travel. That means carpooling and other things, so you don't necessarily stress the parking supply and contribute to traffic. So we're running through these different scenarios in our traffic model to see what the outcomes might be. But there are other projects that we are working on. I mentioned the bike and pedestrian projects within some certain areas. Some of you might remember, I hope I'm not offending anyone, might remember a plan that was developed in 1977, the Nantucket Bikeway Master Plan. There's a variety of projects that were recommended in 1977, and looking at the map on the bottom right, we've actually implemented many of these. There's the last two projects are essentially the Wawanet Road multi-use path and the Tom Nevers Road multi-use path. First, I'll talk about the Wawanet Road project. That project, we just had a public meeting this past Wednesday to talk with the different neighborhoods and the abutters and stakeholders in the area about design alternatives and alignment options that we were evaluating. We're doing that with a federal grant that we got a number of years ago. And then obviously we had a town meeting appropriation in 2023 where we had 68% support for an additional 4.6 million. We're using that as our budget to implement this project. And right now we're, like I said, we're in the conceptual design phase. We had our public meeting. These are the different sections and neighborhoods that we're working with. The map's kind of hard to see, but there's a variety of different alignment options that go along Milestone Road. Some of them break away from the roadway and go through conservation property. Those are very impactful, and we're actually asking the community to let us know. Would you prefer a condition on the left where the path is right next to the roadway with a minimum amount of buffer to minimize the impacts to abutting properties and environmental resources? Or do you prefer an option to where the path kind of breaks away from the roadway and actually contributes to the user experience, but might be more impactful to properties, the environment, et cetera? We have a survey open right now. There's the QR code for those who may want to participate in that survey, but we're asking the community to let us know so that we can pick a preferred alternative. For the county commissioners can pick a preferred alternative that we can advance to final design and permitting. It's really important in the permitting process to have a preferred alternative and that you actually went through a process to determine that preferred alternative, and that's what we're doing right now. Another project where we've already gone through that process is the Tom Nevers Road multi-use path. Finalizing design now. Literally this week we have final design plans that staff is reviewing. If those seem fine, we'll go out to construction bid in a couple of months and hopefully have a project in place, at least a usable path by next summer. And this project, you can see in the top left, that's meant, I'm sure it's hard to see, but the gray path, kind of a little bit of a serpentine alignment. It's the alignment of the path is 4 feet from the roadway with a grass buffer, and areas where, and you can see in the visuals here, the utility poles along the roadway, where the path does conflict with the utility pole, it does deviate behind the utility pole, and there are some slivers of property impact with doing that. But then again, the path realigns closer to the roadway within 4 feet. And that was done again through the similar type of design alternatives analysis and community input that we're doing for Wawanet Road. We went, like I said, we already went through this process for Tom Nevers and look forward to having that project implemented again before next summer. Some other projects we're working on, our Transportation Improvement Program, which is a program that spends 80% federal and 20% state funding on roadway projects. As you all know, the Milestone Road is a state highway and a state asset, and that's going to be getting a lot of our TIP highway funds over the next, I would say, decade. The priority project on the left is the Milestone Rotary reconstruction. There will be a public informational meeting later this fall that will be conducted by the Mass DOT to get input from the community on a preliminary design to rebuild that rotary to add capacity, improve safety, and to be more of a gateway feature for the community. Other project that we're working on is the Milestone Road and Noble Deer Farm Road. There'll be another public informational meeting about that project. While I have the opportunity, I will use this to say that there's been some discussion of just adding a turning lane to Noble Deer Farm Road, and that'll be the solution. We've actually modeled that with our and the turning lane just isn't as a good of a solution for safety and capacity reasons as, say, like a three-way stop or a roundabout alternative. So we're going to be seeing if we want to pilot a three-way stop at this intersection or not. But again, the long-term option that seems best is a roundabout option there with the 18-wheelers that need to turn right at this intersection and the heavy pedestrian traffic that crosses Noble Deer Farm Road on the bike path. The turning lane option just one, it wasn't as safe, didn't actually function very well for the larger vehicles, and honestly, you just didn't get the capacity improvements that you would think that you would get versus the other alternatives. So that's where we're going. The last thing on this map is the widening of Milestone Road. That'll be a project that we'll add 1 foot shoulders to the roadway after these intersection projects are completed, and that's why I say there's probably 10 years of funding going to dedicated to these three improvements. But we're also locally using some more local funds. We have a variety of other projects, and this is something that we reviewed with the select board this past Thursday as they're developing their capital improvement program. They selected a number of different priorities for at least roadway projects. One, again, having to do with the Milestone Rotary improvements. We want to underground the utilities around the rotary. There's some overhead wires that conflict with house moves. And with the reconstructed rotary, the spans for the overhead wires would be too great to actually implement. So we do need to underground utilities and underground those utilities all along Orange Street to the beginning of the in-town bike path at Goose Pond Lane. And that'll help facilitate some bike pedestrian improvements along Orange Street where there's some bottlenecks for accommodation. But that's a high priority. The select board let us know. There's some other projects that they consider higher priorities, like Old South Road traffic improvements. Old South Road itself needs to have some capacity, perhaps with the median turn lanes to improve access to some abutting businesses. But there's other corridors that we're looking at and connections that we're looking to make along Tacoma Way and a connection to Milestone Road. With that traffic modeling that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we want to model these improvements to see how effective they are. If there's a good bang for the buck for actually implementing these projects, is there's going to be the relief and congestion you would expect to get. We'll model all that to verify that, but this is, again, a higher priority for the select board to address those congestions, the congested conditions along Old South Road. And Amelia Drive as well. We're actually looking to pilot a one-way option, and right now we're surveying the abutters of Amelia Drive to see if they think that's a good idea or not. So that's something else that's ongoing. Wrapping up, just some other projects we worked on this summer. I had a good intern that did an evaluation of the downtown parking. Updated. I'm getting some feedback there.
And some feedback. Okay, thanks.
There we go.
We thought you needed some feedback.
That's funny. What Tessa Duggan did, she was our intern. She went and verified the inventory of on-street parking that we had in the downtown area, sorting it by the residential neighborhoods where there's all timed, like 2-hour timed parking. She found that we verified that there were 837 spaces in the 2-hour zone, and in the core area, 301 parking spaces for a grand total of 1,138 total in the timed parking districts. What she also evaluated, and some of you might be interested in this, is sidewalk obstructions due to these on-street parking. There's two kinds of on-street parking on sidewalks that were evaluated. There was a level 1 obstruction, which is like a partial obstruction, which is intended to be tolerated. That that goes back in history sometime about tolerating parking on sidewalks. So this level 1 condition was mapped on the right. There's also a level 2 condition where the sidewalk is completely blocked. That those areas were also mapped and quantified. You can see that the level 2 parking spaces, there's 39 parking spaces that completely obstruct a sidewalk. If you are to realize the full access of that sidewalk, those 39 vehicle or parking spaces would need to either be relocated or just need to be tolerated, that they would need to exist there. If they were to be relocated, we have other ideas of where those can be relocated to. That's another long discussion and conversation that I actually subscribe to. I think that actually is a solution to open up and free up some of these sidewalks. If not, then again, you know that there's 39 parking spaces that obstruct sidewalks completely. We thank Tessa for her good work this summer for helping us determine what those numbers are and where those locations were. And Mr. Chair, we have a number of different ongoing efforts that we're doing. There's no way I can go through everything at this meeting, but just to let you know that we have a new Transportation Public Access Advisory Committee that we're working with on a variety of projects. Those are encroachments that happened and within the public way. We want to ensure public access along a number of different public ways, but we also want to make sure that our vision and our priorities and our capital projects are the design of those are evaluated and supported by this committee, and they provided recommendations to the policy boards, or Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission for the regional projects, and then the select board and county commissioners for the local projects. This will be a very valuable new committee going forward that will help us implement the recommendations of our traffic safety action plan, which is noted here, help us update our long-range transportation plan, which is our 20-year vision document. They'll help us update that. They'll also help us model different planning scenarios. And I think I went through those on our traffic modeling discussion, that there's a number of different scenarios for growth over the next 25 years into 2050 that this group will help us with. Some other things we're working on are we're supportive of the state's Ride Safe Act, the e-bike legislation. That aligns very strongly with our local bylaws that we've passed in recent years. I think the community is a leader federally and in the state and locally for e-bike safety and providing good regulations such as speed limits on bike paths, setting a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for our bike paths, and that just helps make them safe. Other projects we're working on that you might see this next year when you come back. When you come back next year, you'll see a wider path along Sparks Avenue and a path along Newtown Road. We're also advancing an older project that had stalled, and that's improvements to the Four Corners intersection. That's one of the bottleneck intersections that's very important for access to our hospital and our schools. So we're advancing that project. And then I think I did mention, Mr. Chair, the Orange Street bicycle and pedestrian improvements. I think with the undergrounding of utilities and the funds that we're asking at this next town meeting for to do that, will help improve bike and pedestrian safety along that corridor and help complete the long envisioned in-town bike path to have a bike and pedestrian facility from downtown all the way out to the Milestone Rotary. So Mr. Chair, I did go over quite a bit. I know I talked a little fast and I rushed some of the discussion, but if you scan the QR code, you can go to our public outreach website to learn more about a lot of these projects. And I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that I went over. And again, Mr. Chair, thanks for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great. We're glad you could visit us again. I must say I'm somehow more breathless than you are after that. What it did is point out one thing to me, and then I'll just open up to other people's questions. What traffic doesn't happen by chance. None of this happens by chance. There's a great deal of thought and planning that goes into all this. But a lot of that good and appropriate planning never comes to fruition. And so I think one of our questions is going to be what can we as non-residents do to help that along? My best example or examples are many years ago, we supported in writing and elsewhere, I think either turning lanes or a rotary on Old South and again up by the school, which actually went, to public meeting. And I believe both were voted down. The appropriations were not made. And now we're probably, 6 or 7 years further down the road with even more problems. So talking, what do they say? Talk is cheap, action is tough. And what can we do to help the action along? It's probably not, it's a sort of rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that, but I think we should all be thinking about that. You can have the best plans in the world, but if you don't do them, you don't get the benefit of all that planning. So, but thank you for the planning. So who has questions or observations? So we'll start up here and then we'll go out back. Go ahead, Scott.
So you have a projection for growth. We have a finite set of roadways. At what point does the traffic stop? That's probably a foreseeable period, a foreseeable time. When does the traffic just stop or become completely unacceptable? Right now, a round trip from town to the airport is July, August, or 5 miles an hour. Actually, you can walk it probably quicker, but hard to bring your bags along. But it would seem to me that there's a definable point where traffic becomes what I think most people would consider unacceptable. When might that be? It sounds like it's a little sooner than we think.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, like I said, we did model those conditions, and there'll probably never be a point where it just stops and you're stuck and there's no hope and your car's going to be stuck there for a week and can't move. There's never that going to be like gridlock. It's just going to move so slow, it's going to feel like it's gridlock, right? Well, as I mentioned, we did try to model this and we know where those locations are. It's not island wide. It's definitely in some concentrated areas where it feels like it's definitely gridlock. And when you get to where it takes 2 or 19 times the time it typically takes to get through a certain section of roadway, yeah, that's gridlock. And that's what we're experiencing now. And on this map, you see that there's these certain geographic areas with some numbers on them. Some of these numbers indicate, well, these numbers do indicate the number of future dwellings. So we know where growth is going to happen. In some of these darker areas, you see that the population is going to grow. So the traffic conditions are just going to get a little bit more, or are going to worsen in those areas. We're trying to develop in a manner, like I said, if we know that there's growth that's going to happen, that we know that there's subdivision, the division of properties and second dwelling units that can be had by right. We know that happens at a certain pace. What we can do is try to influence where that happens and how that happens, and then how you're accommodating and giving options to the traveling public that don't necessarily contribute to congestion. You don't have to get in your car by yourself, go to one destination, and other members of your family get in a car and drive to another destination, and just everybody's in a car driving everywhere. We'd like to have some kind of option and development pattern that work better, and that some of these conditions that we're mapping, and again, this is current year. If we have the 2050 map that would show you, there'd be a lot more purple, but maybe we can come up with some scenarios that we can reduce the amount of these purple lines and actually have things be a little more tolerable, and the public has convenient and safe options to take other than driving alone.
Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. One of the things that I observe is that what you're trying to deal with are things that the town can implement by widening roads, this, that, and the other thing. When the real problem is how to figure out how we reduce the number of vehicles on the road at prime time. And I live in town, and if we could get all of those Cisco and food delivery trucks to deliver late at night, or we can get UPS and FedEx trucks to deliver at night, that would significantly reduce the amount of traffic or blockage of roads. Like Pleasant Street gets all blocked up because the UPS trucks are blocking. Similarly, landscaping vehicles, which take up a lot of room and are, they're out moving around all during the day, going from Sconset into town, then back out to Mattigit, rather than being forced to stay in a certain area on a given day. It seems to me that trying to control where certain kinds of vehicles are traveling on any given day could be very helpful. On Sunday, none of these problems exist because all of these delivery vehicles and landscaping trucks are off the road. So are there any thoughts about that and what can be legally done?
That's an interesting point, and again, I'm going to go back to this exercise that we did with the traffic modeling because that was really eye-opening to me. Again, changing the settings in the traffic model to reflect the local conditions. Like I said, we have a very high construction employment section and a service industry. The employment is sky high on that. And our, like I said, our traffic modeler had to triple the rates of trips that are taken by the different employment factors to get the calibration correct to match the traffic we're seeing. I think when you say you see a lot of those vehicles out, that's just the nature of the economy that we have. So I don't think there's a lot of movement that we can have there so much. With the deliveries, I think we're at the mercy of the boat schedule, and that a lot of workers come over to the islands during a window of time where they can make those deliveries and then leave the islands. So that's just a product of where people live and access to the islands. I'm sure on the Cape, I mean, I live in Hyannis now, it's a whole different animal. Where if you asked, can you move deliveries tonight? That's a little more reasonable. The delivery driver can make his delivery and then go home at a reasonable schedule without being at the mercy of the boat schedule. So I think that's just something that's going to be very difficult to deal with. When I say that we need to think about our growth patterns and moving commercial uses and services more within proximity where people live. Maybe that's not you fighting with a delivery driver to get into downtown. Maybe what you need in downtown is somewhere else, and you don't have to compete with that. So that takes that out of the equation. That's one of the solutions we're looking at. But you're absolutely right. Having more an efficient time schedule and would help. It's just we have certain obstacles that we just, by the nature of the island, just have to deal with, and that's unfortunate. If it was an easy thing to solve, it would have been solved by now. But like I said, there's a lot of commuting traffic. We're at the mercy of the boat schedule, and that's kind of the product of the traffic that we're experiencing.
So just for people who are online, I'm going to go around the members first and then go to the public after they've asked their questions. And so I'm not ignoring anybody and appreciate your coming. Next, Patty.
How much of the dilemma is budget driven and how much is it conceptual in that? Is there any chance, or have you delved into putting a 1% tax added on to rental cars for transportation or roads? Is there, I would hope that all these huge, heavy trucks have a certain percentage that they have to be taxed on for the road repairs. Even, residents too, but let's leave that to the end. But there's, if it's a budget thing that you can't move faster on some of these projects, is that the correct scenario? Am I thinking correctly? Is that because you don't have the budget for it? And then the next question, where are we getting a few extra dollars to do some of this stuff?
It's a fair point. It's a fair concern to have. I would say the community's been very generous on a number of different projects. I don't have to run through everything the community has voted to support, but there's been things that the community has not supported, and it's not because the money wasn't there. It's just that there was no appetite for it, or not enough of an appetite for some of these. Peter, I think, Mr. Chair, you had mentioned that it's a shame there's all this planning that goes on, but it never actually comes to fruition. We had a portfolio of Old South Road improvements that we advanced about 8 years ago that were defeated. So that's just it's not that there wasn't money there at the time. There was. Was there an appetite to expend it? And it was very split. It was nearly a 50-50 vote. It's just, if you're supported those projects, that we're on the losing side of that. I do have to be careful as a public employee. I can't say that you must approve these projects. I just show that the project's a good idea and what the ramifications are, and leave it to the decision makers and the voters to support them or not. Yeah, there's other revenue streams. The state's been very generous about supporting the milestone road improvements. We do by right get a certain allocation of funds. It's not very much. The state's been very generous in providing discretionary funds to make up the difference. And it's not a little bit. Usually it's about a tripling of our allocation to get these projects done. Same with the expansion of our transit system. That it's nearly, I don't think there's any of those heavy diesel buses left, or if there are one or two left. But electrification and fuel efficient vehicles is something else the state's supported beyond what we get right to. And then, like the local community's been very generous they funded this traffic modeling that we worked on, the array of permanent traffic counting stations. We're going to install 3 more speed feedback signs at different locations on the island. So the community has been very generous in a number of different ways. We just have to make sure that the ask is correct and just the politics of the time align with some of these support.
I just asked Mike, is this something that we have to lobby the selectmen for? Because you've had some budget workshops in the last week, and does this concept come up that we need a bigger percentage to we've got traffic issues, we've got road issues. Does that come into play in these workshops that you're having? Because right now, there's no budget for bike paths, but that's the first thing somebody says to me is, when are we getting one bike path? And I'm going, I can't imagine that that's gonna be a high budget item. So are you talking in these meetings about what about an extra percentage on trucks or whatever?
I have even a better source for an answer for you. We have a member of the select board here, Brooke Moore, who is sitting over there.
Over here.
Brooke, maybe you'd address that and other things?
Sure.
We cannot generate new taxes without permission from the State House.
From the
In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, revenue sources have to be approved by the legislature. The transfer fee for housing is an excellent example of that. 10 years we've been trying to get a new revenue source to support affordable housing, and we haven't been able to get it. So a municipality in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts cannot just add taxes. So that's the answer to your question.
Have we tried?
We're not going, I don't think we will ever try, because it is our experience with the transfer fee. They're very reluctant to approve revenue sources in municipalities because taxation is a statewide thing for the most part. So I don't think it's worth even trying, to be honest with you. Money's not the issue. These projects are not funded through the general fund. They're not funded through our regular, under our levy limit. They're generated through capital debt exclusions typically, right? Project by project, we ask for funding. The funding has been given for Tom Nevers. It's been given for Wauwinet. It just takes years for these projects. There's environmental permitting, engineering and design. Things just take a long time, but they are moving forward. Now, to Mike's point about political will, right? Part of it's messaging, part of it's where the voters are in a given year, both in terms of how many capital projects they're being asked to fund. Whether or not, I'll be honest with you with traffic, my philosophy on this, the pain had to get bad enough that the local community was willing to look at traffic flow alternatives, right? Which would be the old South Corridor improvements, the roundabouts at the one at Nobodere Farm in Milestone is a state project, and that's happening, but it's, I don't know, like 5 to 7 years from construction, probably, with the process we have to go through from today, right?
Correct. Yes.
Because these things take a long time. So it is at a moment in time 8 years ago when that roundabout at Fairground, I mean, I don't know whether you all remember, but the DPW director at the time put a sample of what the roundabout would look like, and the Huron community lost their minds because it wasn't sized exactly. They couldn't, sometimes people can't see to the end result of a project that's, but we've gotten a lot better, Mike, I would agree, Mike's been part of this, about socializing ideas early to build community support for smart ideas, and we're doing that much better. Now, as to the SIP planning, capital improvement plan conversation we had on Thursday at the select board, that plan has been accumulating projects for a while. It's like $1.1 billion of projects. So we're now at the point at the select board level of revisiting everything that's on the capital improvement plan and prioritizing. But I can tell you what happened on Thursday was broad and strong support for traffic flow projects, including the Milestone Connector, Tacoma Way Connector, Old South improvements, the roundabouts. But these things, some of them will be a lot easier, right, than others, especially when they don't involve the state. So I know the select board sees this as a high priority, traffic flow. Now, I'm gonna comment a little about car trips. And there's a saying that says, if you're sitting in traffic and complaining, you should be looking in your rearview mirror because you are traffic. So to Peter's question about, and that, you know, me too, right? I drove my car here today, I could have ridden a bike. What you guys can do, I think, as an initiative of this committee, is encourage seasonal residents to use public transportation. Because if they're not going to town for dinner in their car, they're going on the bus, one less car trying to get to town. Every ride, every trip we reduces traffic. So we're all, and until we arrive at a collective commitment to address traffic and not expect someone else, your landscaper, your plumber, to not be in their vehicle. When each of us says, how can I reduce the number of times I'm in my vehicle on the road at peak hours by going at a different time, by putting the whole family in the car and doing, you know, how do we think about what we can do personally? And I think we live in a society where it's really hard. Making commitment for the greater good is not at the top of our list societally right now. And I would love for us to shift back to working together to solve this problem and not expecting someone else to solve it for us. And I'm in there too. This is me. I'm not admonishing anyone. I'm saying we need a collective effort. Because none of us wants to give up our cars. I have more people say to me, well, I need my car, or I need to drive. And anyway, that's sort of my philosophy on this. And I hope you guys can help get the word out in terms of using public transportation or traveling at different times of day, or anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yes.
One other quick thing I was gonna say.
Mhm.
Is that one of the things, because this is such a long ramp up to solutions, a short-term thing to me, and we've talked about this before, is bottlenecks when the ferry leaves in pedestrian control. And if you could control the pedestrians on the corner of Stop and Shop and the club car, if you could control the pedestrians in like key spots for a half hour before or after a ferry, you wouldn't have the bottleneck in town during the day, and that's just a seasonal thing. So I know, you know, it's a budget thing, but controlling pedestrians, to me, they don't even look anymore. They just,
It's more than a budget thing. It's, I think, exactly what Brooke is saying. The pedestrians are part of the collective solution.
yeah.
And as you may recall, you and I wrote to the police chief at the time, the former police chief, about this issue. And he had a very cogent answer, which was basically, my young, summer interns and other people just can't be having hostile interactions with visitors as they come off the ferry and so on and so forth. I'm sort of adding my own
Yeah,
accents to that, but that was basically his response. It's sort of the same response for great big events on the island where they say, people have to supply their own security. We can't have our people meaning our other town employees. And I'll say fellow town employees because we're all town
But
employees here.
if this is just
abuse.
a half hour, 3 times a day with the little renter cops, I can't imagine that it would be.
There are 8 High Line trips a day. There are.
Yeah, we're talking peak, we're talking.
That's peak. They only run them when they're almost
Not
full.
7:30.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but anyway, that's one of these sort of problems, which is a big problem for some of us. That is part of this whole big situation, and I was personally very enthused and impressed by the statistics on the wave, the transportation system here, and saying, whoa, wait a minute, because when you look at all those additional riders in the wave, that must mean some degree of a smaller increase in the traffic problem. It may not decrease at this point, but it's not gonna, when you have those people on public transportation, they're not.
But how many of those people in their
private-
car? That's the question to my mind. How many of those people are trading going on the wave as opposed to using their car? My guess is that a lot of these people are either visitors or don't have cars.
The governor certainly does it his way, right? It's probably not.
Right,
It's like, actually, remembering that conversation, which I think the response was also that the auxiliary policemen are not obeyed. But that, I never quite understood the answer because it's not particularly expensive to hire a temporary sworn officer. And I'm sorry if they have to give an order to somebody, but if it's going to solve this problem downtown, doesn't seem like a huge civic issue that, to ask people, can you just wait for a moment while we let 5 cars through? It seemed like, the issue was forgotten.
It's an exercise in mob control.
Yes. And by the way, if you drove around during pops, they certainly fielded a whole lot of manpower to control crowds and even downtown during pops. So I think it's within the realm of the possible. But maybe
But add up the costs.
it can't be that much money.
The cost exceeds the hourly wage of that individual.
Mhm.
It's hiring, training, housing.
Sure.
So it's not insubstantial
Mhm.
in terms of cost. We have a robust CSO program. They're called community service officers, just officially. And they are not sworn, they cannot issue tickets. And there are increasingly, if you talk to the prior police chief about how they were treated.
Yeah.
It's 10 times worse
Hmm.
now. How the public engages with authority figures in our community. It's very unfortunate.
Mhm.
But there are really terrible examples of how our CSOs are treated by the public, both people in vehicles and on foot. It's really, really unfortunate. And I don't think the police chief wants to create a scenario where those individuals, those young men and women are literally in harm's way. And again, this collective notion of how we treat each other and who we are as a community is a conversation I'm dying to have. Because I will bet you that the people treating those folks inappropriately cross the spectrum of our population, from those of us who live here year round to those of us who own seasonal homes, to the people who get off for a day trip or are here for a weekly rental. I can guarantee you those personalities and those interactions cross the community. There's no single cohort of people who are contributing to that reluctance to engage those young people in this
So you're
way.
saying it comes from all 4 of those cohorts?
I'm saying there are people among all those cohorts who are, I can guarantee you that there are people among all walks of life on Nantucket.
So it's a
Who are-
national community problem.
I'll talk societal philosophy at the moment, like, if this is not, and these are not Nantucket only issues.
Yeah.
You're in your own communities, this is happening, you see it everywhere, it's it's a shift, and I could go on and on, I'm a social worker, right? Societal change and where we are as a society right now is concerning. We're seeing it here, but it's not unique here. I'll be honest with you, but we have to deal with it, what's possible here.
So let me sort of steer this back to the nuts and bolts transportation issues, because I think
Yeah.
the issue that you raised is maybe a great issue for us all to consider personally and at maybe another meeting, because sort of, I call it civility is it's a major problem in our society. So I'll be civil by recognizing Peter.
Okay.
Peter or
Steve-
Patty, you
Steve next.
know.
Okay, all right, I guess, I mean, I'm not as optimistic as some that we're gonna be able to reduce the number of cars by persuasion. So I'm more interested in the practical, immediate possible solution. So, and I, for example, I agree with Brooke for, turning lanes on Old South. This Old South Road improvements, which apparently we had, somebody that approved 8 years ago hasn't come forward yet.
There are a lot of turning lanes now that were not there
Right,
before,
but
so something is.
What I'm interested in, Mike,
Yeah.
is existing changes to traffic pattern, including maybe cutting across another cut across from Old South to Milestone, and or, for example, trying to educate people to another way to get to the airport, which I've learned, which is to go down Surfside to Lover's Lane and back in the back way. You never get to.
But that's already, it's already
Nobody knows.
overused. I mean, it's,
No, it's
that
not.
four-way stop sign is kind of like a killer now.
Well, that's
Yeah.
another question as to why the Old South, a good example of what a stop sign would do to destroy traffic flow on Surfside, where it would have been, if you needed it at all, you would have had hopefully a rotary at most. I'm not even sure why we put in stop signs at I guess is it my comment there. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out to you, just to sort of focus more on what we can do with existing traffic patterns.
Yeah, but before he answers, I just want to point out the examples that I gave before of planning and no action. They were both politically, in other words, the money really wasn't that serious. It was some people, the voters.
Right, but now
did not
the
want to do
voters
that.
not, but I think, and I agree with Brooke, I think the times have changed. I mean, we're further 8 years down the road, and it's gotten worse. And I think that the appetite might well be there now to do this. So I'm just wondering if we put this forward now again, and some other specifics that you think might work.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Is that rhetorical? We
No, I-
lost the track with all of this discussion here, Mike. I think the answer,
Yes.
the question, Peter, was.
Is are there any specific, I mean, the turn, for example, there is no turn lane from, coming from Old South Road to the Rotary from the airport into, Meat and Fish. That is a huge bottleneck.
I think I heard what the question was, like, there was a portfolio of capital improvements that was defeated, that was intended to improve traffic flow along Old South Road and all the other ancillary roadways, that was defeated. I think what I heard from the select board on Thursday, and Brooke can probably verify or not, was that there is a prioritization of those projects. Again, there's a feeling that the attitudes have changed and that there could be support now, because as Brooke mentioned, we've hit that pain threshold. Planners come up with like these scales of tolerances, like level of service. A is good, F is bad, but that's relative. It really does come down to what does the community want? What are they willing to tolerate? And Brooke may agree that maybe we're at that point now. We're at that stress level that these are now tolerable. We need to fund these projects and accept the change that comes along with that.
Maybe I just follow up and so how would we bring this to the voters now?
Well, it is really about timing for engineering, design, planning, right? It's about voter education. And I think where we are 8 years later, right? Traffic's worse. We have new traffic modeling, which provides the data to prove to the voters that it will work if we do a project, right? which we had less of 8 years ago. We're much better about socializing capital projects, educating the voters, explaining why they're important, addressing concerns before we get to the floor of town meeting or to the ballot box, right? So a lot has changed in 8 years. And I do think what I heard from my fellow select board members is that traffic flow, is the way I would describe it, right? Infrastructure, direction changes like Amelia Drive. We're gonna look at it as a package with the traffic modeling data. And my idea would be to create a really great and compelling argument to the voters who have to vote to pay for it, that this is a good path forward. But ultimately, it's me and the rest of us who are registered to vote here that have to approve it both on the floor of town meeting, which I always say is the heart of decision-making on Nantucket, and at the ballot is the wallet of decision-making on Nantucket, right? And you have to convince
No, we're the one.
that it's a good idea. Well,
Yeah.
yes, but
You're the source of funds, but you're
the
not the
ultimate
approver.
decision about whether
Yeah.
to spend that
We're the
money
wallet, which.
is at the is both a town meeting, and we listen to stories at town meeting, and then we go into the ballot box and decide, can I afford this on my tax bill relative to other things I'm being asked to pay for this year?
Yeah.
Now, we just approved $200 million of capital projects. I never expected that to happen. Does that mean people have opened their wallets, or does it mean that they're gonna not open their wallets down the road? Your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, but if you look at this project, it was well received by the select board, watch the meeting.
Yeah.
This is the bypass or whatever you call that project, you can sort of predict what's gonna happen. It is the annual town meeting that will decide that eventually.
But that's
And
what we,
so what will happen? Everybody who doesn't like it will be bringing up why it shouldn't happen in the political process. As I recall, that connector is very near the water company. And we didn't build a hospital in that general area because we were worried about water. And water is now a big issue. Then you have Nova Deer Road down there, and there are people who live along Nova Deer, and they probably don't want more traffic. This, I guess, could reduce traffic, or I'm not sure, but everybody who lives in the area is gonna find at some point, the whales will become involved. You can't do it because of the whales. And so what can we do?
we can do it.
Yeah.
And I think what we can do is.
Could you define the milestone connector? I'm just a new thing to me.
Sure, and let me, maybe, Mike, can you
Could
fill
you
that?
tell me what the
The
milestone?
picture back
There
up?
was a picture.
It's a picture of it, yeah. There it is, so
Oh, I'm glad I
Milestone
could-
Road out Wisconsin, there's the rotary.
That green
green
Is that
thing.
coming through your
The
yard?
green thing.
No, I'm not complaining about my yard, but
It's further on both sides.
what's where?
Yeah,
Where's the milestone connector?
So it's the green
thing,
thing.
the green line.
Right there.
Old South to Milestone.
So that's new.
No,
Okay.
No,
that's
it's not
impossible.
proposed, it's proposed.
But
But that's
In early
new
stages.
idea.
Yeah.
That's new idea.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether it was from downtown or what.
No, I don't know, that would be an impossibility.
But that's what we can do, Peter. Peter,
Where you go over the water with the.
just to close it out, I mean, I think that what we can, the question is what we can do as a committee. I mean, I think, we can step up. We've been effective in other areas. We can step it up when hopefully the select board says, okay, we're gonna bring it to town meeting. And I think this is something, I think the appetite certainly among the non-voting taxpayers is high. It may not be as high in November, October, November, whatever the town meeting is. But we can remind them what they've been living through in July and August for the last couple of years.
Well, I'm sort of bring up a measure of urgency, which our former chairman, Gary Beller, gave to us. And that is, nobody does anything until they feel the water around their ankles. And I think people are starting to feel the water around their ankles on this traffic issue. And really, it seems to me you have to sell the likelihood that this will ameliorate that problem.
Well, I mean, I give one example, which I think is the non-voting taxpayers will appreciate. I have never, I mean, I've been on the island a long time, all of us have. I have never seen traffic backed up to Don Allen. Not bumper to bumper from Don Allen to the Rotary as we have this past week. I mean, it's amazing, amazing. I never thought that would ever happen. So.
So you had your bike in the road?
That's when you go for an inspection.
Yes.
Even beyond was, I'd like to say beyond.
If I could just comment.
Yeah.
We in this room are not directly connected to town meeting. So if we could sort of talk to people.
This is the connection to town meeting.
I understand,
Here, yeah.
but let me just try and develop the idea. If we could sort of spend some time listening to people that are connected to town meeting and sort of find out what the messaging is and how it worked. I mean, we went through 9 meetings or whatever it was from this whole rental thing. And it wasn't until we finally, plugged in to the stream of dialogue in town meeting that we got 1,600 people there to solve the problem. And how do we, sort of interact with that?
It's through careful planning, but more, before
But I'm
you have
talking about
planning, you have
bringing
to have
people in to
learning.
talk to us.
You have to listen and figure out what's going on and what other people
Yeah,
think.
now how do we get the group to?
Let me just go to Bill Gardner, who's like,
I don't want to interrupt this interesting conversation, but I did want to move from the macro to the micro. The intersection of Pulpus Road and the Milestone Road, that new intersection is, in the view of a lot of people that I've talked to, hazardous. Is there any opportunity or is there any possibility that that's going to be rethought?
Did you hear that, Mike? It's the
It's not
new
a
intersection at
concern.
Pulpus and Milestone, and apparently I've not had the experience there yet, but it's an issue.
Yeah, we've heard that. I would say that when the planning was being done for that whole area, when we were doing the Old South Road, Milestone Road traffic study, and they recommended improvements there. The long-term recommendation was a roundabout. And when that intersection was being reconstructed, mostly the genesis of that was to have a bike path along the north side of Milestone Road. And in order to have that, the Y intersection needed to be resolved. And if you're going to have bicycle traffic traversing that intersection. So the Y needed to go away. And it was either going to be replaced by a T or a roundabout. And because roundabouts at that time were it was very politically sensitive, I wasn't here at the time, but I believe the attitude was, if we're never going to get that passed from our committees to approve the project, let's just go with the T intersection and solve it that way. I would say the left-hand turn out of Pulpus onto Milestone Road has been the maneuver that I've been told is the most difficult. I would say that because it's so difficult and everybody knows it's so difficult, that it's actually fairly safe to get through that intersection because it feels so unsafe. We actually don't have the crash data or the level of crashes that we've experienced in the past because of that condition. So I would say the data shows that it's safer because it feels less safe, if that makes any sense at all. So it does operate. The congestion and is definitely better. The bike pedestrian access is vastly improved. There's not that crossing down the road at the Pulpus Road bike path anymore. Basically bicyclists who are going along the Pulpus path stay along the north side of the road. So that's definitely safer. But it's I hear the negative reaction. I would say that the data really doesn't suggest it's a problem right now.
So Scott, and then we'll go, and Carol Bellard's here, and she has something to ask too.
Thank you. We have a crisis in Grand Point that we need your help with. We have 200 homes. We have a parking disaster. We have a mishmash of signs. We have 2-hour signs. We have a 96-hour sign that should be really a 12-hour sign. We have rental cars parked for days on the side streets. We have people going off island that leave their cars and trucks for a week or more. So we need your help, particularly on the side streets like Johnson, Walsh, Willard, and Swain. There are no signs. So if you want to leave a car for 3 months, we had one person that left a car for 9 months. And it makes it very difficult to get deliveries. Sometimes the cars and trucks actually are not parked close enough to the side of the road, so they block the road. We have to call the police, they have to call the owner, somebody has to move it. So we would love to have you do a parking study of Grand Point as one of your projects. Thank you.
Scott,
I had a micro item also, which is, I believe last summer, on the road on the east side of the Stop and Shop, leading to Long Wharf, cones appeared, turning that is, so cars could not stop to discharge passengers, they had to stop in the roadway. And I asked the question about it, I said, well, this is for fire and emergency access. Which seemed odd to me. First of all, it's been that way since Beinecke. Secondly, we always have community service officers there during peak hours who could prevent people from parking. But effectively, we've turned that into a very difficult passage because anybody who has to discharge now has to stop all of the traffic, and we're leaving the curbside blocked. It just didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me, and really going backwards on our traffic flow.
This is downtown.
Yeah, downtown, the Stop and Shop parking spot, the water side to it, there's a line of cones. The only way you can discharge a passenger is to stop in the roadway at Long Wharf, and obviously no traffic moves for 3 minutes while you're getting your baggage out.
sounds like a personal parking space grab.
Well, no, there's no parking there, they have cones, so they're leaving the parking or the standing area unoccupied. Which I think we could certainly, I think preventing parking there makes a lot of sense. But somebody who's just standing there discharging, if we need a fire truck down there, you tell them to move.
Yeah.
You need an ambulance, they move, but just turning that into a 1-lane road, which requires full stoppage in order to discharge a passenger is not helpful to that circulation.
So.
Mr. Chair, if I could address that real quick, if that-
After that,
Yes.
he
He's
has,
got an answer.
There is that.
Mike,
he might have an answer, sorry.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right, just, you mentioned the whole, pickup drop-off operation down by the High Line, and just to let you know, that has been noticed by staff. We're gonna explore some ideas this off-season and hopefully have a different configuration, next summer that's much more efficient and works better for everyone. And Mr. Chair, I just note that there are some hands raised online. I didn't know if you were going to take questions from other people online or if you're handling questions in the room at all, but I'm just noticing other hands raised.
I'm on, Peter.
I've heard anecdotally that has, and I'm trying to confirm with someone that has told me this, that is a legacy thing with the boat basin, golf carts, not riding on the dock sidewalk. That is to leave room for them to go off onto the roadway. It's some kind of legacy thing with that, with NIR and the boat basin. I'll see if I can find out an answer. I've texted someone for the answer, but there's something weird about it. And then they don't use it. They end up going on it's. There's some old legal thing there that that is involved with that. So
we have Bob Vadoni, and then we also have a case.
So, Bob Vidoni and then Robert Goldstar.
Okay, thank you. I come in from Quidnet to that Pulpus Road, the new designed one by Island Lumber. And you may not have the crash data yet, but if you try and make a left turn across that traffic and someone is going to let you out, in that right passing the right lane outbound, there are Toscana trucks and big trucks that go so fast by that. If you're trying to make a right turn and there's a construction vehicle to the left of you, you can't see someone coming down Milestone Road. The worst part is trying to make it left because construction vehicles go flying by there. And if you want crash data, when you get it, it's going to be a T-bone and someone's going to get killed. I drive it a lot. My solution, rather than take a risk to go left, I make a right and go down to the rotary to go outbound. That it's dangerous. It's, you know, I know you don't have crash data, but you talk to people that use it under those circumstances, it's dangerous. That's my only comment. Thank you.
It's too possible, couldn't it?
Next one.
So how do we get?
Next person.
No, he just needs to speak. So you got that one,
Robert,
Robert?
Great, thank you very much. This has been very helpful. I'm a 25-year resident of Nassau. So I am feeling that purple line very, very much this summer. And just a couple things. First of all, do you have a place we can email you questions or suggestions? Number one, I've written down 11 different points. So that's the one thing I want to ask. Secondly, if we could look at, again, the Old South plan for turnarounds, because a couple mentioned, you know, a turning lane to Amelia Drive and a turning lane to Fairgrounds, if that would help at all, to seem to eliminate that. And one last specific thing is that no one's mentioned is, for those of us that live this way, is Rugged Road. Is there any plan to fix Rugged Road or pave Rugged Road as another access down to Fairgrounds to get cars off Old South and get up, basically just another way to get off Old South? The Lover's Lane, the boulevard, has been fantastic this summer. It's great. Yes, it gets congested during peak hours, but not during peak hours. It's fantastic to either get to the beach, get downtown, get to the dump. That's been a great thing, paving Lover's Lane. And the last thing I would ask is to think about and how we move ahead with what is being talked about as the Matt Fee suggestion of a road out of Richmond Estates or Sandpiper, a different road out of there. So the people, the many, many, many cars that come out of there every morning at 7:30 and trucks could go not on Old South, get to town another way. So those are my thoughts and suggestions. Hopefully you've taken notes. And if you could either send us a place to email you ideas and suggestions or feedback would be just great. And again, thank you for all you do. And thank you for being here today. It's been great.
Sure. So let me just ask you this question. The email address, are you looking for Mike Burns'
Yeah, Mike
email
Burns,
address?
that's
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
yeah,
Mike.
okay, okay, good. That's good, because we would just have to ask him.
didn't do that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have a number of different public outreach ways to give suggestions. If it's like an immediate problem in the roadway that you see, we have a See Click Fix app that you can just drop a pen and that's monitored by our Department of Public Works, so that's a more immediate action. Other different suggestions, I think there's a town manager at nantucket-ma.gov where a lot of different public comment is received. I believe the town's website might even have a public commenting portal. All of our projects have public commenting or public participation opportunities for all the different projects we're working on. Wawanet, we have a page for that. But there's a variety. But if you want to email me personally, mburns@nantucket-ma.gov. Just to let you know, I get a plethora of emails, so it might not be like 5 minutes after you send it that I respond. I hope that'll be all right. But if you find one of the other opportunities to make comment on different things, take advantage of those too, because those are seen by other eyes. And I believe that even the town manager email address, that's at least monitored by another staff person who tracks these things and makes sure that there's an appropriate answer that's given. Lastly, opportunity, I'll put Brooke on the hot seat and just say, you can go to select board meetings and make public comment. And they're very good about taking in the question and then at an appropriate time answering the question. So there's a number of different opportunities.
We brought the select board to you. Actually, she volunteered to come.
I would sort of double down on a couple of things that Mike said. We are doing a ton of community outreach on projects. And while a lot of you go home and you're focused on your home communities in the off season, much of the work that happens here in terms of preparation for town meeting, your opportunity to speak, your opportunity to persuade your other year-round community members as to their vote at town meeting happens in the off season. Using our civic portal, you can set up alerts for projects when new things get posted, for committees when new things get posted. I like to say to everyone, if you were to watch 1 year of select board meetings, you would know more about how this town runs than you ever wanted to know. Because it's a cycle, right? It's the process of decision making, the budget, you know, when we address parking spaces, you'll see how decisions get made. It's a lot to ask in terms of time, but that is an enormous way but tracking when these outreach sessions are on specific projects is gonna be your opportunity to communicate with those of us who vote. And that when those votes affect you. So your voice showing up, speaking your experience to your fellow community members who vote here, is what each of you can do individually. And I don't know whether, you know, the Committee on Non-Voting Taxpayers has a communications, you know, or, you know, I don't know what you guys do in terms of outreach to your constituency. But we all, like my thing about riding the bus, we all have to participate to make our voices heard and to make things go the way we would like them to, because we're balancing a lot of competing interests when we're making decisions. That's public policy. It's the nature of public policy. So if we don't hear from you when the decisions are being crafted, we don't know what you'd like to see. As you know, Jean's point, you know, I recognize that the lion's share of our funding comes from seasonal property owners, right? And the balance of life on Nantucket, the experience as a year-round person, as a voter, it needs to be balanced with the experience of our seasonal residents who we value greatly. And so, but don't expect the outcomes to go your way if you're not in the arena at the table speaking your voice. So I encourage that more and ride the bus.
Thank you. Just a couple of things on that subject. We are trying to develop a better outreach, and we have a communications committee, which just over a year old now, and is making great strides, but it's still a long path to get there, because it's hard to put together a sort of email list of all non-voting taxpayers. But we're trying. We're in the early stages of trying and getting the approvals we need to do that. We're trying to set up a mailbox. We know where the mailbox is, but none of us currently has authority to access anything. And so we're trying to do that. And then thirdly, because of the point you just made, that things happen year round, not just when we're on the ground here. First off, we've been thankful and supportive. I wouldn't say for COVID, but for the fact that it sort of opened up these hybrid meetings. So we have been, for I think the last whenever the hybrid meeting started, we started meeting year round. But that's just, you know, us, and the outreach is perhaps not as great as it should be with whatever we are thinking about. But we're going that direction. We're hoping the legislation will become permanent, because it still is a temporary, you know, the hybrid or Zoom stuff is still temporary. But I think it's increased your public participation, it's increased our public participation. It's a wonderful thing. And then lastly, we've just this year, with the success of our communications committee, we're trying to develop other committees, because as you point out, you know, watching the select board year round is a lot of time and effort, but worth it. I tell people it's the best reality TV there is. And so if you really need good reality TV, just tune into the select board meetings. But we're trying to develop, you know, a whole host of, you know, small committees where individuals will have some responsibility for putting their finger on the pulse here, there, and everywhere, and give us better information. But they were going in that direction.
Two other thoughts while I'm thinking. Subscribe to our media outlets and read the ads. I'll give you an
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
I was looking at the current newsletter yesterday and saw public input sessions for the master plan. That it's going in our select board announcements this week, and I hear these things. But we actually use ads in those publications to see community input. So read beyond the headlines and look at the ads. Subscribe to the town manager's newsletter. If you haven't done that yet, once a month, Libby puts out a really comprehensive newsletter that now, instead of being a lot to read, it links to things, topics of interest and progress. And there's also a housing department newsletter that is really helpful if you're interested in what we're doing on affordable and attainable housing in the community. So staying engaged with the community, the town's doing a lot of communication, and communication only works if the person reads it, or looks at it. So I just encourage you to carve out a little bit of time in your lives to stay connected from the day you leave to the day you come back, and tune into the process of decision making more.
Thanks. So Mike, did anybody else have any other questions? I have one sort of micro macro.
I just have a micro.
Yeah, Gene, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had two things. One, has there been any look back at creating one-way roads? I know there was a test done near Five Corners last winter or the winter before, which as I recall, was a disaster in terms of community acceptance. But there are lots of streets, particularly in town. Gardner Road is one, South Mill Street and South Mill Street, which are both two-way. But one could be going one way and one could be going the other way because they're
Another one is West York Lane.
there's all sorts of them. Is that ever gonna be revisited, or a sort of a transportation department giving up on that?
Sure, Mr. Chair, you mentioned a number of different corridors, and yes, they've all been thought about, all those locations. I'll just say right now, earlier in my presentation, I'd mentioned that we're surveying abutters of Amelia Drive to see what the appetite is for piloting a one-way of Amelia Drive. You can actually go on the website. If you just Google Amelia Drive Nantucket, you might be able to see the project page and the little schematic that we put together for how the flow would work in that area. Gardner has been talked about quite a bit. Again, it's kind of split among the community of whether to make that one way or keep it two-way. In West York Lane, we actually worked with the neighborhood of West York Lane. And again, that was rather split of whether to have that a two-way or a one-way. We got a number of different responses back on how that neighborhood uses that roadway, what they feel is unsafe, and what their preferred entrance and exit locations are. So at the end of the day, we just said, let's just keep it the same. It's just too split amongst the community. So it's a lot of this. There just has to be like this overwhelming support, and the island is full of quirky little travel. We have the Civil War monument that's in the middle of an intersection that's a quasi. There's lots of quirky things that just seem to be tolerable. We love to fuss about it, but at the end of the day, it's what makes the community this community. So I don't know what that line is of whether you make the change or not. I think that's why we do a good job of public outreach and rely on decision makers to make the right decision. But that's kind of what makes this a fun job. So.
Just want to finish, and then I have another issue. But talking about that central Civil War monument,
Which way do you go around this?
people don't know coming from Gardner Street whether to go to the right of it or the left of it. But there's an easy solution. Just put a little sign with an arrow. Will allow people to know which way they should go, rather than somebody getting there, particularly if you're not from Massachusetts and you're not used to rotaries, then you get really confused. But some of those are simple solutions that can be determined, and I'm sure transportation engineers can figure that out in about 3 minutes, using AI even. But the other question I have is, and it goes back to my belief that a lot of the problems are the commercial vehicles. Is there any data on Old South Road as to if you go from the Rotary to the airport and it's a busy time and it's backed up all the way, what percentage of the vehicles are private automobiles and what percentage are commercial landscape trucks, contracted trucks, UPS, et cetera, et cetera? Do we have that data and what does it show?
Yeah, we do have a vehicle counter, permanent traffic counting station that tracks the classification of vehicles, motorcycles, regular passenger cars, and then these like an 18-wheeler or a larger truck. I don't think it gets down to like the landscape pickup truck, the F-150 that has commercial plates. We don't have that kind of data. But the larger vehicles, I mean, a lot of these areas, it's like 3 or 5% of the total traffic are the larger like 18-wheelers or larger box trucks. And I mean, you're right, there's a lot of commercial activity on the island, so that percentage is going to be high. But again, that's kind of a product of just being a very successful community. It's a thriving community, so you're going to have the freight and the need to move goods from one point to another to address the demand. So it's just traffic is just a byproduct of a very successful, popular community in a lot of ways. So
First of all, I am floored by the depth of planning that you've done. It's amazing. It took me by surprise. One
You're making
thing
me
out of
blush.
that, man, you said between, in the next 23 years, we could have another 5,000 dwellings on the island. Is that 5,000 added to the 11,000 that are here now? Is that basically the way I look at that?
Yes, that's additional to what we have
So
now. So
we could
essentially a
look at
doubling.
16, 17,000 dwellings on the
I
island.
didn't think there was land. You know, dwelling is a defined term.
Right, so dwelling is a defined term. It could be an apartment, it could be an ADU, it could be a lot of things. Yeah, I get all that. I just, again, thank you for your service.
Michael, along with that, thank you very much. The presentation is in depth and very.
One more question.
No, she's got a question.
Okay, sorry.
Residents on West York Lane, I mentioned that, you know, we were coming to hear your presentation today. And they are interested in one way, most of them. So we do have a majority. So how would we proceed?
Yeah, we might need to follow up on that. Again, we did the surveying some time ago, about a year ago. If attitudes have changed, that's
Yes,
fine. I think we just again maybe do a demonstration of that. If you have like a petition or something like this from the neighborhood you want to submit to the town, that's one way that we can do that. And then we'll review that at a traffic safety meeting, or maybe the TPAC meeting, the Transportation Public Access Advisory Committee. We'll look at it one of those two committees and then give a recommendation to the select board to see if they want to make that change.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let them know which way you want to do it.
And Mike, can you send me that your presentation, or is there a link to
Oh,
it?
yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, this slide deck? I'm not sure who asked that question, but yes, I can send it to Peter and to the other folks on the email chain that it was used to invite me to this meeting. I can send
That
like a
was Kathy
PDF.
asking, because I'd like to put it with the minutes. So thank you.
Were you circulating, Kathy?
Yes.
I want to thank you for a tremendous presentation, and I had a question as it relates to the development of your plan on Tom Nevers Road and the Walnut Road, and as it relates to the concept of using the bus more frequently. Are there plans to have more transportation stops of the bus along either of those routes? And is there funding for sufficient transportation to make those useful and usable?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at improving accessibility to existing bus stops at some key locations. I hate to say whether we're going to make other changes. Talking with Gary Roberts at the NRTA, I think we're prepping for a reevaluation of the entire system. again, using this traffic model that we're developing. And with, you know, they've piloted some new bus routes this summer, and some of them are more successful than others. The Bartlett Farm bus route was brand new this year. And we've talked about some ideas of having more of an east-west through Mid-Island bus route to link the hospital to neighborhoods along Old South Road, and the new Surfside, Orkawa, Monahans connector, maybe having another loop there. So we're reevaluating things. So it's hard to give an answer of what we're going to do. I think we're going to go through an evaluation process and make suggestions.
It would make sense to follow up. It would make sense because if the traffic is incoming on Walnut Road through Pulpus and from out the eastern side of the island, especially along Tom Nevers, where there's so many homes being developed, or there's a density of homes there. Just having a bus stop along the new bike paths would be helpful. And then the other question I have is in terms of how this plan is propagated through town meeting, and we've talked about the fact that all the selectmen have thought about this as a priority. The traffic is becoming a priority, and it sounds like you have funding for most of the stuff from the state along Milestone Road anyway. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be popular if it's not going to cost taxpayers much, if it's already in the budget. And secondly, leads me to the question is there funding for that corridor, which also seems like it would be a little bit harder sell, but a great idea. Is there funding for that too from the state?
Which one? You mean the cut through?
The cut through.
Oh, the connectors, like the milestone connectors that we were referring to. That's right now. It's an idea that we're evaluating in the model. Yes, there would be funding for that if it's considered to be supported locally. I'm very sure Mass DOT would like to participate in an evaluation, and because it's their asset, they could contribute towards the funding. They do that in a lot of cases. You had mentioned new bus stops, and at this public meeting that we had for the Walnut Road multi-use path, someone made it during the question period said that because the neighborhood feels so unsafe now with walking and biking along the corridor, adding a new facility would actually have more of the I guess the younger residents there would feel safer to walk down to the intersection and use the bus, use the Pulpus route to get in and out of town. Whereas now they just don't feel safe enough to get there, so they rely on parents or others to drive them to certain places. So yeah, that could be a situation we have to reevaluate the transit system after doing a bike path project because it's so popular now. These are great things. Tom Nevers probably the same way. Once that bike path is finished, there is an existing bus stop that's there at Tom Nevers Road and Milestone Road with a bus shelter. I'm not sure how heavily used it is, probably not very. That's just going to increase because people feel safer about accessing that stop. So that's something that can happen. Was there another question in there that I missed?
Bill Gardner.
I have one more micro question. Mike, and my thanks to you for coming here. I remember your presentation a couple of years ago. It was terrific. And this time you're mentioning the Walnut bike path and the Tom Nevers bike path. The last time you were here, there was a little talk about the Quidnet Road bike path. Is there any possibility that is going to get resurrected, or are those of us who opposed it last time do we have to gear up again?
Oh, like a Quidnet Road bike path? Is that what I heard?
So the question is whether there is currently thinking about doing a Quidnet Road bike path, because apparently there is some opposition to that. Is that correct? Correct. Yes, okay.
Well, I mean, I hate to say whether that's great or too bad, but it is an idea that we've documented in our long range plan as a future improvement. But it's a low priority. There's definitely higher priorities. Again, we'd like to focus bike and pedestrian improvements within thickly settled areas like the town area. And there's a number of different competing projects. So it's still an idea. If you're hearing that there's pushback on it, I guess it will stay a lower priority.
I think he's now lobbied you, to do what you're doing.
I mean, I think when we look at the massive amount of capital that needs to be invested across the island, I know for me as a select board member, what is the impact, right? How many people will benefit from a particular project versus, so I would say probably a more rural bike path might be lower on a priority than,
Orange Street.
Orange Street. Yeah, which would be utilized across, so, again, public decision-making, it's really about weighing all the pieces and, I hate to say, opportunity might have been missed at a time when there was an appetite and fewer competing interests. There's just a lot.
We prefer to have it diverted to the pond.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a little factoid to take away.
yeah, well, the numbers that came in on the bids for that project is
Yeah, I heard.
another kettle of fish, so.
I heard.
So,
Keep going.
Okay, so, Mike Burns, this is Kathy Baird speaking. So I live on off Tom Nevers Road. I've lived there for 35 years. And I know it's clear, and I'm also the vice president of the Civic Association out there. Clearly, it is way more of a year-round community than it used to be. Used to be nobody wanted to live out there, so it was all seasonal. But it's not like that anymore. And I drive up and down that road every day. We're thrilled that the bike path is finally coming, and I think you're right. There will be a need, or if there's any way that the buses could come down Tom Nevers Road. I mean, it's 1.5 miles all the way to the field. It's a long walk, and a lot of people are not able to or willing to be able to do that. But I think it would be used a lot more. I do from my house, it's a 0.6 miles to get to the bus stop, but I do it. Except at night, because there's no lighting at all. It's completely dark road and nobody can see you. So it's, even if the bike's coming, you can't ride a bike there, it's too dark. When we don't want the lights, we want the dark skies, but it would be nice, especially for workers that live there. And sometimes I think they could get to work, but they can't get home because the bus doesn't run late enough for them. So just my thoughts there.
So last
Can they put
person
public
is,
parking near a bus stop so that somebody could drive to the bus stop and then take it into town?
There is no parking there. People park there anyway, but they park on the road and not supposed to.
so the last, Bob Vidani, and then I will
It's a good idea.
thank Mike for sharing this time with us in a very productive way. So I've sort of done that now, but Bob, what do you have on your mind?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mike, as Mike Hurley, he said the amount of work is really exceptional and deep. And I just want to thank you. And also just my comment about, the intersection of Pulpus Road and Milestone. I realize there are a lot higher priorities on this list. It's kind of an emotional response of what I see there. And hopefully that you're right and there's no crash data there. But, so I realize that there's a lot more higher priorities on your plate. And I do want to thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, and I mean, thank everybody for the good questions. And Mike, thank you. One sort of macro thing I have to add to your list. I heard in your introduction part of the presentation, the word encroachment, and that's one of my favorite things. And to me, it's a micro issue for me when I leave Pilgrim Road to get onto Cliff. And it's a macro issue because I experience in a lot of other places that these beautiful hedges and sometimes it's telephone poles block your ability to look up and down the road before getting onto a sort of a main artery, which Cliff is kind of a main artery. And I think that occurs all over the island, and it's a little bit it's hard to parse out whose responsibility those things are. I know I myself took a weed whacker many years ago and went to work on my neighbor's properties. And I was not,
Well
you know,
received.
arrested, and indeed at one point the DPW did it for me after asking. So I think we have a safety issue in this sort of encroachment world. Which is, you know, similar to what the pulpus, you know, if you can't even see it, you can't see what's coming, and so you sort of inch out and pray at the last moment. So if you could sort of put that on your list, you know, if you have a comment as to how you have a, you know, 500 or 600 people out looking at that right now, we'd like to
Sure.
know.
Sure, and if it's all right, Mr. Chow, just say if you see one of these problem areas, take advantage of the See Click Fix portal, drop a little pen on the computer and let us know where those encroachment issues are. We have a great real estate office team and DPW team that coordinate with each other to review those and verify where the property lines are and if it's an unsafe condition, and then send letters of notifying to have the homeowner do it,
Yeah.
or the DPW will do it, and they're not necessarily professional landscapers. So there is a process. Just make sure that you let the offices that deal with this, let them know about it.
Yeah, because you can't rely on the GIS to give you an accurate feel for where the lawns are, you know.
Yeah, there is no way that the DPW can monitor every sight line at every intersection on Nantucket. So we can be collectively the eyes and ears of the DPW on particularly safe encroachments that affect safety, and I do it all the time. I use ClickFix, and it's an app you can download. It's really easy to use. You upload the location, a photograph, a description of what you're seeing. And typically the DPW, in my experience, I don't know, that's because I'm a select board member, but they respond pretty quickly, particularly when it's a safety issue and a sightline issue for traffic. So I encourage everybody to use that and be the eyes and ears for them. Because they can't possibly be everywhere all the time because they're busy.
But she just,
Down.
Yeah.
it's very true.
Clickfix.com?
It's called ClickFix, and if you go to if you're on an Apple, I have an Apple phone, but I imagine there's one on Androids as well. Just go to the App Store.
Yeah,
It's actually an app.
okay.
It's not a website, it's an app, and you can just download the app onto your phone. And honestly, I use it all the time, though I am guilty of clipping overhanging branches on bike paths when I'm getting slapped in the face. I carry clippers.
I have it on my phone if you wanna see how to access it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Really cool.
And they're super
Take a look
fun.
at it.
Click
What's
Fix.
it called?
Click
and fix
Click
with an
and
N.
fix.
Click
And
and fix.
you
Oh,
report
click
it,
and fix?
yep, and then they confirm they received it. They tell you when it's been assigned to the department, they tell you when it's been completed. So it's not, you're not putting something into a black hole, they actually, the system actually communicates with you on the progress of your request. It's super cool.
Fix and.
Click and
Click
fix.
and,
Click
like
and
and.
Yeah,
Fix.
Click and fix.
Click and A&D.
No, click N?
Click and fix.
No,
I'll
one
show
word.
it to you after
I'll send it to you. Anyone who wants it, I'll send you the link to the app.
Right. So Mike, thank
Yeah.
thank you so much. This really has been, you've done above and beyond the call of duty in terms of time and effort. And we very much appreciate it because we have some good information to inform us as to our thinking on these issues and some idea what we need to do. And that's the objective of having you here. So I appreciate it very much, especially on a Saturday morning, and have a wonderful weekend.
You do the same. Thanks for having me. I
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
So the find the agenda, we're about to have a world record length of this meeting.
No.
No.
Let's see. So
Peter, I have 45
Communications
seconds.
Committee.
In 45 seconds, I want to, we are working on improving and increasing our communication and outreach. We have an updated description about our organization for our committee for the town webpage. We have an article that's been drafted
for Libby's newsletter, and all that it is awaiting is the final okay for the email address, which will allow people to reach out to us. And we will figure out what the town allows us to do in accessing it and what we do with it. We're not gonna, it's not, we hope it's not gonna be a complaint box, but if there are suggestions, we will use it to pass along to past speakers or departments, or use it for our own activities. And the other thing we're trying to do, because there are only, I think, 4 or 5 people in this room who are not members, so we're trying to increase our outreach and publicity to get more people to come to our meetings, because this was a great presentation, and I think almost all 13 of our 15 members were here, but I mean, there should be more townspeople, whether they are non-voting taxpayers or voting taxpayers.
Yeah, it's good. I guess, I think we, at least today, we have this opportunity from time to time to probe it a little bit more deeply than you get from, you know, a segment of the select board meeting, which sometimes is very focused, and get a bigger picture, which certainly I need it, and I think others do as well. But thank you, Steve. The Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee update. We have not met again, but as I mentioned in our last meeting, there were 3 public outreach meetings on the Nantucket Strategic Retreat and Relocation Plan, which deals with sea level rise. And indeed, that issue in a way was on this town capital budget committee agenda on Thursday. And I must say, I was very confused by the discussion at the select board meeting about you know, issues such as raising the roads in the harbor area. And I think there was some misinformation put out there, which I can address it individually sometime. Needless to say, this is a committee somewhat like the Transportation Planning Committee, which is trying to foresee the future in some semi-reliable way and make recommendations for the town to consider, and if there's the political will to adopt. And that is, I think that committee is functioning very, very well. It has, you know, good outfit. And the challenge now is sort of the dual challenge of educating the voters and educating everybody else who's going to be affected by this, whether or not they vote. And that's a humongous job, because, you know, people don't pay attention to these things until it's almost too late to do anything. So we do our best. That I say at least 3 of us, maybe more, attended these meetings, and so we're getting I think a broader concept of what is facing the island, and some of the suggested ways to deal with it, which is, you know, raising roads, protecting the most vulnerable areas, and what you could imagine. So I will get more deeply in that for time, and because I'm not capable of getting much more deeply right now. And so that's it. Anybody any questions about coastal resilience?
So there's also recorded meetings, so they should be available on the town's YouTube channel if someone wants to watch them.
Yes, there are. And we've been holding those so far. I think virtually all of them have been hybrid meetings. So they are recorded and available. But like anything else, you know, these tend to be long meetings, and one of the thoughts would be when the minutes come out for some of these meetings, it might be good if one could timestamp those minutes as to, you know, at what point in the recording this particular issue was handled, because then one could easily access, you know, you're interested in, there are 10 issues in the select board or here or anyplace else, and you're interested in one issue. And if there could be in the minutes or somehow, some time stamping of the different agenda issues. Then somebody could go and spend, 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes instead of, an hour and a half searching for where this was handled. You have some general idea of.
Well, if you have the agenda and
You have the agenda, you have some idea, but select board meeting can be 2-3 hours long. Let me tell you, it's a barrier to getting into it. Yeah. So you're gonna tell me it already exists?
So I believe that if you go to YouTube.
Yeah.
You click at the bottom, the agenda pops up and the entire meeting is timestamped and you.
Oh, really?
It will take you right to that agenda item in the recording.
It is.
So the answer is it's already being done. See?
Well, that is the
Solve
best
your
answer in the
problem.
world.
And that's been that way for a couple.
But think of all the time I've wasted.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but thank you.
I don't know that all meetings are that way, but the select board meetings have been.
That's,
I haven't used it in a while, so I was a little hesitant, but Bruce can confirm it's still that way.
Does the select board or anybody put that out to the public? How does the public know? How?
I've announced it at multiple select board meetings. It just, yeah.
Is it on your website or?
Our website is enormous. I don't know where we would put it that people would see it, but it's a good idea, maybe to put it back in the town manager's newsletter or somewhere. I have a lot of general comments about communications and you guys are gonna find this. There was a time when people went to the Inky Mirror for all their information on Nantucket or to the traditional media. The biggest challenge in communications for the town of Nantucket now is the split of where people get their information. So it's reaching people in large numbers. It's generational. It's really hard. It used to be like the town could put something in the Inky and everybody read it, whether you were getting it delivered off season or not. It's really, really hard to reach people broadly. We pump out more information. I go to the Mass Municipal Association conference every year, and I know that Nantucket is doing like way more than 99% of the communities in Massachusetts in communications. The landscape of communications has gotten really divided up. So that's why I encourage people to subscribe to the town manager's newsletter and the things that I say are the places I know we're pushing information out. Follow us on social media if you're on Facebook or Instagram. Follow the town because we are pumping information out daily, multiple times a day. And if your eyeballs aren't getting on it, it's really hard.
that's why I had, cataract surgery. But, thank you.
Can I just
Yeah, yeah.
remember, for Libby's newsletter, they asked that we have a picture of our group. And there are, I think, 11 of us here, so that would be great if before any of us leave, somebody who's not a member could take a picture of us.
That'd be
great.
my best Sunday outfit.
I'll take a picture.
And then if somebody can also just help me rearrange the furniture so that we continue our record of being very good users of this space. We'll get it back together also. So that leads us to the schedule for the next meeting, which is August 29th, Saturday, August 29th. I have invited Andrew Patno, the director of the DPW, to that meeting. He's indicated that he just needs to check with his family, that being Saturdays, and I know he's a very busy guy. He coaches and he does this and does that when he's outside of his bailiwick. So I'm hoping that he comes because another one of the gigantic budget issues that is the real estate, the buildings the town owns and how to maintain them and how to build them and this, that, and the other thing. I think, indeed, all of the department heads that we've had and been, just like Mike, just amazing amount of information and expertise. And it's a, if nothing else, this is not keeping me up awake at night, Maybe the final bill is, but, the fact that this place is, well managed is, a comfort. So that's my own speech. You may not feel the same way, but, so, and then we're on the September 12th meeting. We need to think about changing that date or canceling that particular meeting. It turns out to be a religious holiday on the 12th, and I think we have a hard time putting together a quorum. And I'm planning to be in another country, and so why don't we sort of we'll think about and we'll decide at the next meeting whether we need a meeting in September or not, or at that sometime around that time. So that's,
And whether we want to be in person or hybrid.
yeah, we could probably, at that point, we're probably hybrid, not hybrid, but it would be just virtual. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's virtual, which would mean nobody has to rearrange the furniture, okay, so any, public comment or comments, before we move to adjourn? Any new business? Yep. This is the father of the paper straw.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I came here to make a public comment about a certain subject. That during the course of the discussion, this gentleman, this lady, and several others have also touched on the subject, so I think it's appropriate. My name is Bruce Mandel. I live in Matticat. I am a director of the Matticat Conservation Association. I'm the chairperson of the Matticat Area Plan Work Group, where the boundary of Matticat was recently, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, amended. We now have 17 distinct neighborhoods in Matticat. We've conducted 6 surveys over the last 5 years. And I brought with me contact lists for Smith Point, which is almost entirely, or it is entirely, non-voting taxpayer property owners. And I brought you a brief list from my neighborhood in Midland Avenue, which has about 40 non-voting taxpayers.
When do they have authorization? Do you have authorization to use that?
Yes.
Oh.
We'll give that
And I'm giving it to you because of what I want to talk to you about for a couple of minutes. Periodically, I come before you to talk about how influential you guys are when it comes to town meetings, annual town meetings, special town meetings. You have an opportunity to speak that none of those people on that list have. I've contacted every person on those lists. Not a single one has ever heard from you. And they say, well, how do we contact them? I said, it's difficult. And it's something I come to talk to you about periodically. I've asked you about surveying other non-voting taxpayers who aren't involved in this committee. And you said to me often how difficult that would be. It's no longer difficult. I'm going to tell you why. The Matticat Conservation Association has conducted, as I said, about 6-7 surveys over the last years to formulate the issues for our area plan. We use QR codes for our members and our property owners, and there are almost 700 of them. And we publish the QR code in our periodic, about every 30 days, publication brochure called Matticat Matters that discusses issues in Matticat. We distribute it to everyone through social media and et cetera. Put a QR code in it, people just scan it, survey opens up. They click on their answers, close their phone, submit. The app for the QR code gathers the responses, tabulates them and distributes them. I'm going to suggest to you that you could do the same thing, and I would offer you the use of It Matters, any surveys that you want to distribute, particularly to our 17 neighborhoods. Brooke asks you to reach out to the non-voting taxpayers of the island and to, I guess you call it, socialize them with them or whatever. This is an opportunity for you to do that. There are other neighborhoods in an area that have similar abilities, and you could put a QR code in the Inky. You could put it in the Nantucket Current. It's an easy way to communicate with people where previously conducting your own surveys and collecting the information and tabulating them. And importantly, when you speak to a town or a special town meeting warrant article and you express the opinion of the non-voting taxpayers, you're really only expressing the opinions of these 17 people. This is a way, and I've often said, you need to do it. Back up what you're recommending on a particular warrant article with survey data that shows you have real support, rather than just something that you all want to do amongst this group. So I'm here to say that I think this is something you ought to do. I would recommend you doing it. It's a way to get your message out for all of these different subjects. You've got a committee trying to come up with ways to better communicate.
So our committee is gonna talk with you and to follow up about.
You can.
This in.
I'll give you my email address, but that's why I came
Great.
to participate in this public portion of your meeting. And I would appreciate it if you would survey all of these non-voting taxpayers that are actually part of the Mattocket community, the Mattocket Conservation Association. They want to hear from you.
I will, our committee will follow up.
Thank you.
Can I just ask
Thank you
you,
so much.
Thanks,
what do you
Bruce.
do with the information that you get? Who gets it? How do you?
We use it to formulate the Mattocket area plan and communicate with the town. The town has a master plan
Right.
and they're developing it now and they're communicating with you about it. There are about 7 or 8 area plans that feed into the town's master plan. Mattocket is one of those communities. I think Tom Nevers is one of them. And this is an important way for communities to get feedback into what the planning process is for the whole island.
So that's the committee that gets the information.
Gets our information,
Yeah.
all right?
Yeah,
We use it. Mattocket Conservation uses it for other purposes. I'll give you an example. Please, Will.
This is good. We have this committee and
We will.
they are gonna
Set
interact.
up a meeting before our next.
They just took the stop signs off the bike paths, and you guys mentioned line of sight.
Yeah.
Now that we are not required for bikes to stop on the bike path that go right through, we can't see down the bike path. And we use click and fix, take pictures of it, send it to the DPW, and ask for them to create the state required line of sight down an intersection. There's a diagram, I can send it to you. There's a state required distance you're supposed to be able to clearly see.
We can take this one by one and then we'll get through to it.
Okay,
Okay, thanks Bruce
Thank
for
you so
coming
much,
and
Bruce.
for sharing your ideas. So
Excellent.
Can I ask just one question?
Yes, Kat.
Where do you get your emails from?
My email?
The ones that you just handed over here? How do you get them?
Do you have 700?
Awesome.
I wanna get pictures of where
Advocate.
people read.
Right, but Tom Nevers Civic Association is not, people don't volunteer them, they don't give them to us,
I
so,
don't have a problem with it.
okay.
Okay, the Smith Point list I just gave you,
Yeah.
that's from the Smith Point Neighborhood Association, which has been embraced now, brought into the Matica Conservation Association. So when I speak for their representative, not all 20 or 30 or 50 of them, they have a representative. When I speak to them and I tell them, for example, here's an issue I want to talk about, they have no problem because they actually tell me, we want to hear from them.
Yes,
Okay, so that's
didn't
just
answer
an
my question,
example.
but that's okay.
Okay, let's put it off because
And you know what,
if
if
we
you
don't,
don't want the list.
Bruce, you're gonna have to go pick up my guests at the airport if you don't stop. So motion to adjourn,
Yes.
So moved.
second, all those in favor?
Can everyone just come here for 10 seconds for a
Yeah.
photo?
Well, front or back?
Thank you all.
With a photo on it, we'll get together and I'll do this and take your pictures.
No, just the.
Like Carl, never met personally, but.
That's great.
Okay, I'll communicate by taking, you know, all right, everyone, you have to have a smile.
Okay.
Everybody in here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Bye.
You may need a wide angle lens.
Get back.
Come on.
Jen's up.
Right here. All right, on the count of three, I want everyone to give your best smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's one picture. Let's take another one just in case. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. What do we need to do? Yeah, what do we got?
Negative.
Peter, maybe you with the chairs?
How about you?
Peter, you do with the chairs.
Okay, so we just make two more lines like this.